and welcome to the definitive Windows 98 demonstration. My name is BJ Whalen, and my partner in crime here is Mr. Dave Poland, and we're both members of the Windows 98 marketing team. Today we're going to give you an inside look at what Windows 98 can do, and we're also going to compare it head-to-head versus Windows 95, so you can very clearly see the differences. Now, what I'd like to do is start out with a brief slide of what Windows 98 is all about. Very simply, Windows 98 is the successor to Windows 95 that works better and it plays better. Windows 98 works better because it's easier, it's faster, and it's smarter. Windows 98 plays better because you've got great gaming capabilities. You're going to see that it's an incredible entertainment platform, and ultimately you're going to be able to do many more things with your PC than you were able to do in the past. Okay, so let's start out with an example of how Windows 98 works better.
Great. BJ, a key benefit of Windows 98 is that it's much easier to use than Windows 95 and has much tighter integration with the internet. Windows 95 users will be very excited to know that they'll be able to make a very easy transition over to the Windows 98 user interface, but we've made a lot of enhancements and a lot of very interesting new tricks and tips to allow you to get the most out of the internet and to do a lot of customization on your desktop. BJ, why don't you give us a few examples?
Okay, great. What you see here is the Windows 98 desktop, and I'm going to launch into my computer, and the first thing you notice is that as I hover over a particular icon like my C drive, immediately off to the left of the screen it tells me how big is my overall hard drive and how much free disk space I have left. And you compare that to Windows 95, where in order to get that same information, what you would need to do is you'd need to know that you need to right-click on the C drive and then go into Properties to get it. So the bottom line is that with Windows 98, we're making the information more accessible to the user. The other thing you notice is that as I move over to other objects in my computer, we've extended that same type of functionality. So for example, on the printers, it tells me about how I can use that to set up a printer, or in the control panel, it tells me what that's for as well. Let me surf here through my C drive and go into my documents. Now let's take a look what happens when I just hover over a particular file. Say for example this bitmap. I get a preview image of what that file is. Or for example if I go to a Word document, same thing. Or a PowerPoint. And so the nice thing is there are often a lot of times where you have a lot of folders and files in a particular folder, and you may not remember which is which, and this way you can figure out what it is without having to actually open it up, so you can ultimately work more efficiently and productively. Now, why don't we take a look at how Windows 98 also integrates the internet capability with your desktop. So the first thing you notice here is that I'm looking again, as I said, at my local hard drive, but what I can do now is I can actually type in a web address and go directly to the internet. So I'm just going to type in an address for Microsoft.com, and you notice we've got autocomplete, and I'm going to go right to the Windows 98 website. So the nice thing is that I can use the very same tool from when I was just looking at the contents of my documents folder, and then immediately I'm looking at the web. And you can compare this to the past, where if you were looking at the contents of your hard drive, users would then back out and launch a separate browser application to get at that same information. So the nice thing here is that with Windows 98, you no longer need to be thinking about, well, what kind of information do I want to find? Okay, based on that type of information, what type of tool should I be using? So no matter what, it's much easier to find the information. One other way we've integrated the internet capabilities with the desktop is that I don't even have to launch an application to get the information I want. Right here on this taskbar, I've got what we call the address bar, and I can just type in a web address right from here. So say, for example, I want to go to Yahoo. Immediately, right from the taskbar, I can go to the web. Or I could even type in, say, my documents. And immediately, I'm there.
That's very cool. Now, BJ, with Win95, I'm actually able to add things to my Start button. And for example, let me give you a quick example. Everyone knows how you can do. You just click on an icon, and you could drag it to your Start button, and there it appears on your desktop. However, it's actually quite difficult to otherwise modify the Start button or to remove icons from the desktop from the Start button after you've put it on there in the first place. Is there anything new in Win98 to help that?
Yeah, there is. What you'll actually see is that in Windows 98, just about every icon in the Start menu is customizable. So for example, let's go to my Start menu, and let's think about the system tools. I often find myself going into the system tools, and the nice thing is that now I don't like how it's buried down here. I can just drag it, and let's put it right up here. And so there it is. Or, for example, I can go into my documents of recently opened files, and I know this frequently changes depending on the files that I open, but if I know that I always want to be able to open the Windows 98 Monster Demo Fest PowerPoint, I can just drag that right up here, and there it is. So what you see is it's very, very easy to customize your start menu with Windows 98.
Very cool. Is it also possible to get, like, single-click access to all my favorite applications?
Yeah, it is. You notice here on the bottom left-hand corner of the taskbar, you've got this area which we call the Quick Launch bar. And what it means is that I can drag shortcuts to applications, pop them right on that Quick Launch bar, and I don't even need to use the Start menu to get where I want to go. So, for example, I'll take my favorite productivity application, Flight Simulator, drag it right to that Quick Launch, and now I can just immediately launch it when I'm back in my office.
Very cool. So BJ, what we've just shown is that Windows 98 is actually much easier to use because we've really enhanced the customizability of the desktop and really made the internet much more tightly integrated. Now, why don't we move on to look at quality?
Yeah, why don't we start with that? One of the first things we've done is that we've made it easier for users to help themselves. For example, by updating the help system. Now, Dave, you were talking about in the past, the other day, you had a problem printing on Windows 95. Can you explain to me what that problem was about?
Absolutely. I have Win 95. I bought a printer, I brought it home, and hooked it up to the back of the PC, but I had problems printing. And so I thought maybe help could help me locate the problem and fix it. So I went into help, and I've got quite a bit of information here. Let's go into the index and type in printing. So click on display. And actually not really what I wanted, but I do find a troubleshooter guide. So let's take a look at some troubleshooting information. It says print troubleshooter. We'll say what's wrong. It says my document didn't print at all. Well, that sounds like my problem. Let's take a look. It says try printing a test page. But I already know that, I already tried to print a page and it doesn't work. So BJ, does Windows 98 actually help me out here?
Yeah, it does. Let's first take a look at the help system in Windows 98. The first thing you notice is that we've got a two-pane view of the help system. So not only can you see the index list of things that you're searching for, but then once you find a topic, you can still see both the list as well as the details on that particular topic. So let's go to the troubleshooting wizard within Windows 98. And now what I want to point out, the difference between Windows 98 and Windows 95 is that we've actually got a very detailed and thorough print troubleshooting wizard that will walk you through the steps that you would actually go through if you were to call a support technician at Microsoft on the phone. And they would ask you a series of questions such as, what type of problem are you having? Well, my document didn't print at all. Okay, next. Well, are you printing to a local printer or a network printer? Okay. Well, is your printer set as a default printer? And so what you see is there's a much more thorough set of questions that we ask to really identify the problem. So with Windows 98, we're much smarter about how we can diagnose and troubleshoot problems. Now, we all know there are times when the help system simply just doesn't have the information we need, no matter how good we make the help. One of the reasons for that is that once we ship that CD, the help system is burned onto that CD. We can't update it anymore. But after we ship the product and we talk to customers, we learn a whole lot about how to support Windows 98 and also some tips and tricks that we learn after we ship the CD. So in the past, it was difficult to incorporate into the help system. Well, with Windows 98, we've gone a long way to actually deliver that information into the help system by linking you directly to the web. So we've got a button here called Web Help. I click on this button, and what happens is it'll take me directly to the support online site at Microsoft.com. So now I'm on the web, and immediately I'm at the Windows 98 site. And so now I can, for example, find out the latest information on printing. If I click my search options, you'll also notice I've got support for natural language search support. So now I'll just say, how do I print?
This means that users could just type in, the problem as they see it. So,
exactly.
Example, like, how do I print? They don't have to worry about being really specific.
Then up comes the list of all the latest knowledge base articles related to printing. And this is actually the database that our support professionals use as well. So as a user, you can actually access this and ultimately save yourself a lot of time if you want by not having to go through and call a PSS person and wait through the lines there.
Okay, very cool. Now, BJ, our support technicians also tell us that one of the most common reasons for support calls is that a PC stops working properly because of outdated or obsolete or corrupted drivers. Now, does Windows 98 also provide a way to make sure that you always have the latest drivers?
Yes, we've got a tool within Windows 98 called the Windows Update Wizard, and what this does is it takes you to the Windows Update site on Microsoft.com, and this is actually a one-stop shopping network for all your latest system files, whether it's bug fixes, updated service packs, or even third-party drivers. So let's take a look at this site. It's actually right on the top of the Start menu, called Windows Update. And what this tool does is it will actually inspect your computer and figure out what your exact configuration is in terms of system components and hardware peripherals, and then it'll scan your system to see if there are any later files available that we know of on Microsoft.com, and if there are, we'll give you the option to install them. Now, those of you who may have security concerns, you'll be very happy to know that all this comparison of what is actually on your system is done locally on your machine. So we never upload any of that information back to the web to Microsoft, so that we ensure your confidentiality there. Now let's take a look at the Update Wizard. In this case, the Update Wizard is now scanning my system, figuring out what exactly I have installed, and it's comparing it to the latest and greatest system files. In a minute here, you'll see it comes up with a list of available updates. Now right now, we've just got a basic update available. Welcome to the Windows Update website. This is just a sample of what you might see. And on the right-hand side, it says description. Welcome to Windows Update Wizard.
Yeah.
It also tells you here, how long it would take to download it if you're using a 28.8 modem. This would be less than a minute. So let's go ahead and install this. Okay, so you see it's downloading it, and now it's done. And if I now go to my desktop, here's the welcome.txt message that it just installed on my computer.
That was incredibly easy.
Exactly. Now the nice thing is that with Windows Update, you can actually, at any time later, go back and restore your system to how it was previously. So say, for example, you don't want to have that little update on your system anymore. I hit the Restore button, and what it says is Previous Updates. These are all things that I would have already installed from Windows Update onto my PC. And now I can now very easily uninstall it. So let's go ahead and hit Uninstall. And now you see the file's gone. So that's how easy it is to keep your system up to date with the latest and greatest system files with using the Microsoft Windows Update.
Cool. BJ, a common problem that Windows 95 users tell us about is that, they have problems with their PC after they've installed a certain application, and they find that other applications perhaps have stopped working. And the common reason for this is that there's become a DLL conflict where the new application has installed files that now conflict with an older application and cause it to stop working. And for many Windows 95 users, the only course of the only solution to this might be to have to reinstall Windows, especially if it was a system file that was broken. Now, does Windows 98 give us any additional help in this area?
Yes, it does. Let's take a simple example here. Let's take a look at the calculator application. I'm trying to launch my favorite personal finance application, and something's going wrong. It says this program has performed an illegal operation and will be shut down. Now, something's obviously wrong here, but it's very difficult to know what. Maybe I just installed a new application and there's some kind of conflict with one of the files that calculator uses. And often the only recourse, as you were mentioning, is just to do a reinstall, because more often than not, that'll fix it, but it's not really the most efficient way to fix it. So in Windows 98, we now have a tool that will allow you to diagnose this and find the exact problem much, much more efficiently. It's kind of like looking for a needle in a haystack. It allows you to find that needle very quickly. This tool is called the System File Checker, and what it does is it scans all your system files for anything that's been corrupted, deleted, or changed. So I'm going to hit Start, and it's going to scan my system files. In a moment here, it's going to figure out what the problem is. System File Checker has identified that the following file has changed, calc.exe. And so what I can do is actually choose to restore it. And I'm going to restore it from my original install media. And now, hit close, and let's try to run the calculator. And immediately you see that it works.
Awesome.
So with this tool, we make it very easy again to diagnose problems that in the past you could spend hours trying to diagnose and troubleshoot. Now it's just much more efficient.
Another area, BJ, in which Windows 98 is a great step forward from Win 95 is in the area of hard disk capacity. Windows 98 has a new file system called FAT32 that addresses some Windows 95 file system limitations in two areas. One, in partition size, and in how efficiently information is stored on your hard disk. Let me give you an example to show you how much more efficient Windows 98 can be in terms of storing information. On my Win95 system here, I have a demonstration utility that is taking a look at my hard disk, and I've got two partitions, each of 2 gigabytes in size. And I'm going to simulate here a conversion to FAT32. And we're just going to do a scan on my C drive and see how much hard disk space I would get back if I converted to FAT32. And it's coming along, it's almost finished, and let's take a look. Now, on a 2 gigabyte hard drive, I'm currently using about 1.3 gigabytes of hard disk space. If I convert it to FAT32, I'd get back over 700 megabytes of additional disk space.
So that's about 50% of, over 50% of the space that you're currently using right now.
Yes, you could almost think of this as getting a hard disk for free.
Or for the price of Windows 98.
Exactly. Now, one other thing that we have with the file system on Windows 95 is that if you have a new hard disk, maybe a 4 gigabyte hard disk, like a very large hard drive, with FAT16, you need to convert that. You need to divide that into 2 separate disk partitions, a C drive and a D drive. And it'd be really nice to be able to support a single partition, like a C drive, that's larger, that would use up your entire disk. With Windows 98, it's possible to format your drive and have a single partition for a large disk. In fact, FAT32 supports hard disks of up to 2 terabytes in size.
So that's 1,000 times larger than the maximum supported size by the existing FAT16 file system.
Exactly.
Which is what ships in Win95.
That's right. And Windows 98 provides a very easy-to-use conversion utility to convert a Win95 FAT16 drive to FAT32 to get these benefits.
So what you're saying is that I could take a drive that has FAT16, has a lot of my personal data on it, I could convert it in line to FAT32, and I would get disk space back.
That's exactly true.
What's the average that we expect most users to get back?
We expect that most users on average will get about 28 to 30% additional space on their hard drive by converting to FAT32.
Great. Okay, what I'd like to do now is walk you through another utility that we've got in Windows 98 called the Windows Maintenance Wizard. The Windows Maintenance Wizard is a tool that allows you to automate a bunch of scheduled tasks on a regular basis. And a lot of users, they never think about running these tasks. Let me show you what some of these tasks are. Okay, Windows will perform the following tasks. You see here that it's actually going to speed up my most frequently used programs. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. It's going to check my hard disk for errors, and it's also going to delete unnecessary files from my hard disk. So think about it, a lot of users, they never think to go into their temp directory and delete all those files in there, and often 6 months later they go there and there could be, 50, 100, 150 megabytes of wasted space in there. Or for example, in your temporary internet directory, every time you go to a website, when you download pictures and GIFs, that gets cached on your hard drive, and after a while that takes up a lot of space. So with this tool, what it allows you to do is set up these relatively mundane tasks that most users don't think about, but it runs them on a regular basis. And if you run these tools on a regular basis, it will keep your PC running at peak performance. So all you as a user need to do is run this tool once, and you can ensure that going forward your PC will always be operating at peak performance. Now I mentioned before that programs on Windows 98 will actually launch faster than on Windows 95. Let's drill down on that a bit. What we actually see is that if you have an identically configured machine, one with Windows 95, another with Windows 98, on average, most programs will launch about 36% faster. Why don't we go ahead and just put this to the test right now?
Head-to-head.
Head-to-head. Dave, you've got a Win95 machine.
Yeah.
I've got a Win98 machine. They're identically configured, and we're both going to launch Photoshop and see how it goes. Now, Win98 will be on your left, and Win95 will be on your right. And we'll go 3, 2, 1, go.
Go. Okay, perfect.
And on go. So, we ready?
I'm all set.
Okay. And don't cheat. 3, 2, 1, go.
I still think I got to jump on you. Although you're beating me badly. Oh, dude, Win98 rocks. That's amazing. So how does this work?
Okay. Well, when we were designing Windows 98, we thought about how we could optimize performance. And what we realized is that processor is really no longer the bottleneck. Memory is also no longer a bottleneck. The biggest bottleneck for performance these days is disk I/O. How fast can you get the information from the hard disk and load it up into RAM? Yeah. And specifically, when we looked at that, we realized that the biggest wasted time is in the time that it takes the hard drive needle to search back and forth across the drive looking for the information. And so we said, how can we optimize hard disk performance then? So we went back to the disk defragmenter tool, which is your very basic utility that we had even in Windows 95, but we enhanced it. And we applied some very intelligent logic to the defrag utility so that now with Windows 98, we actually watch how your programs launch, and we use the defrag utility to make sure that we then put all the files that you need for a specific program together and in order so they're in one spot in your hard drive, and so the needle is no longer searching all over the hard drive for that information. And in the end, what you see is about an average of 36% faster performance in loading applications.
Yeah. But how does it know, how does this defragmenter know which applications to speed up? Or does it speed up all of your applications?
Oh, well, that's very simple. The more you use the app, the faster it gets. It's true. What we do is we say, the apps that you use the most, those are the most important to you, so we're going to make sure that they're optimized to the best extent possible. So that's basically how we get that performance in Windows 98. Again, your mileage may vary. In the tests we've done some extensive testing. We've seen an average of 36%. Faster processor, obviously you're going to get a better gain, even if you have that fast processor on Win 95.
And it looked like it was considerably more than 36% in this
yeah,
case.
Some cases will be more, and again, some cases it will be less.
Okay.
Let's move forward.
Good. You know, Win 98, you know, and actually, BJ, with Win 95, the ability to multitask was really cool. You know, I could run lots of applications all at once. But on the, you know, on my typical computer monitor, maybe it's a 17-inch monitor, even if I had a very large 21-inch monitor, even if I'm running all these applications all at once, I can never see all my data on the screen at the same time. And, you know, in my job, I like to run email all the time. I like to see when my messages come in, and I'd like to see that come in, see all those messages, even when I'm working on a Word document or Excel spreadsheet, where I also want to be in full screen mode. So does Win 98 have some new features to let me see more information?
Well, with Windows 98, we can actually support now up to 9 monitors on a single PC. So conceivably, you could have your email on one monitor, and you could have your Excel on another monitor, and to your heart's content, 9 different applications. Now, let's take a look at how this works. So what you see here is we've got 2 screens, and they're actually both attached to the same PC. And let me first show you how the monitors are actually attached. So let's open up the contents of my computer. And what you see here is I'm going to just drag it across onto this other. Whoa, that was, wow.
That's cool.
Woo! So what you see here is I can just drag it across.
Very cool.
And there it is. So let's now go back to your example with email. Say, for example, I've got my email on one screen, and I can see my inbox and my incoming messages, but now I get an attachment. Looks like you just sent me this mail that says, hey, for the latest info, check out this website, Microsoft.com/Windows98. So what I can do is I can click on this link, and you notice it automatically launches on the other monitor so that I can continue to see my email and see any incoming messages. So that's one example of how you can, as a user, can better multitask using your computer. Cool. Now there are some other examples that we can look at as well. For example, a lot of users, they'll have, for example, a Word doc and Excel document open at the same time. And for example, I do a lot of business analysis, and you look here, I've got the worldwide widget summary that I've done for fiscal year to date as of October, so I'm a little behind in my work.
Looks like the Wombats are doing pretty well.
Wombats are doing okay. Widgets are doing particularly very well. Wongsters need a little work. But what we see here is that I've done all the analysis in Excel, but now I need to make a nice little business proposal, Word document for my boss, and they hate to look at Excel documents. So it makes it very easy for me with multi-monitor support to write this Word document, because what I can do is I can look at all the information that I have at my disposal here in Excel and then use that as I write this Word document. And now, for example, as I pick which data I want to get, let's say I just want to get this, this high-level summary right here of how we did. And I'm just going to drag it over. Copy here. And so you can see it's much, I can be much more efficient as I work with multiple applications at the same time, because I can see them at the same time. It's very much like having just a big desk like we've got here, and I can spread out all my work.
That's really amazing. BJ, how does it work? How do you make this happen?
Okay, well, for each monitor that you want to have attached to a PC, you need to have a separate video card. And we can, again, support up to 9 video cards on a single PC. Okay, so let's see exactly how this works. I'm going to right-click on my properties for my display settings, go to the Settings tab, and it tells me exactly how my monitors and video cards are laid out. And I'm using Dave's extra monitor here as my second monitor, and then my first is primary here. So I click on monitor 1, it tells me that's monitor 1. Click on monitor 2, monitor 2.
Looks pretty clear to me.
Monitor 1, monitor 2.
Awesome.
Now, since they're driven by their own video cards, they're completely independent. I can set their color depths independently, so this one could be 16-bit, 32-bit. I could go into this one and do the same thing. I can also set their screen resolutions independently, so I could have an 800 by 600 on one or a 640 by 480 on another. So for example, web developers have said they've really liked this feature because they can actually do their editing for web content and see what it looks like at a different resolution at the same time. So it really speeds up their production process. Of course, I can also control the physical layout. So for example, if I want to switch the layout here, now, instead of connecting this way, I've got to go back that way. But we're not going to go do that because that's kind of confusing. So we're going to just go back to normal.
And so, BJ, you said you could have support up to 9 different monitors as well.
That's right, up to 9 on a single PC.
Okay. So, BJ, what we've shown here is that Windows 98 works better than Win 95. In fact, what we've shown so far in the demo is that we've shown a better ease of use, okay, and better internet integration. We've shown that Windows 98 is smarter with better system tools. It's more self-maintaining. And it also has a higher level of quality, including better productivity with support for multiple monitors. Okay, BJ, let's move on. We're going to take a look now at how Windows 98 plays better. And the first area in which it plays better is in support for better games. Now, we've just looked at how we've got great support for multiple monitors. You know, could a PC gamer actually take advantage of this multiple monitor capability?
Absolutely. I'm going to show you a version of Flight Sim here. This is Flight Sim 98. And what you see is that I'm able to play this game with 2 monitors at once. So I've got my cockpit view on one screen, and I've got a spot view on the other screen. So let me hit the period so I release the brakes, and let's start flying here so you can judge my flying here, which is not optimal, but so we're heading down the runway.
Dude, do you have a pilot's license?
No, which is why I'm playing Flight Sim. Okay, let's go. Here we go.
Pull
We're
back
taking
on the
off.
stick. All right.
Yeah, this looks pretty smooth. All right. Now we can do some funky things here as well. I can, for example, go and change the view on this to a map view. So I can be viewing, for example, my navigational controls. I can also go to a tower view. So now, the best part, of course, about multi-monitor is that the crashes, if I do crash,
Oh,
are very realistic because you get multiple views of that single activity.
Oh, jeez.
So again, that's an example of how multi-monitor can really take advantage of gaming rather can take advantage of this multi-monitor capability to make it much more realistic.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And you can imagine, for example, a situation where, you know, if you've got an action shoot 'em up game, you could, you know, for people with like just too much time in their hands, they could put a monitor in front of them and a monitor behind them, and so they're playing here, you know, doing that kind of thing, like looking back and forth as they're playing the game.
You know, so BJ, I noticed you've got like about 5 monitors in your office. Are you actually getting any work done?
Oh, you bet. Just don't tell my boss.
Okay, the next area in which Windows 98 is really moving gaming forward is support for really high quality 3D graphics and much faster graphics. Faster to the point at which, as a gaming platform, Windows 98 is going to be on par or exceed the capabilities of dedicated gaming consoles like the Sony PlayStation, the Sega, and the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, in fact, the Next Generation Gaming Magazine in October rated the PC platform best gaming platform ever over all those other platforms, which for us is really a first. I mean, people always use the PC to play games, but never have we really exceeded them in quality.
Fantastic. Now, BJ, you've got a game here called G-Police by Psygnosis that's really going to let this whole point speak for itself on better graphics.
All right, so let's check it out here. So this is hopefully where my flight sim training will come in handy. And I'm going to, just so we get a look at some of these great graphics, I'm going to go down and blow up some civilians, I think.
Dude, get a handle on the aggression.
Okay, here we go.
Control to Alpha Wing. Fly through the tunnel to the next dome. Over.
There's a tunnel.
There's a tunnel. Oh,
He's past it.
I gotta learn to play this
Control
game.
to Alpha Wing. You have one unidentified craft in your vicinity. Over.
Okay, let's see if we can get this guy right
Destroy
there.
that fighter before you proceed.
Missed him.
Where is he? Oh, there he is.
Good
Oh.
explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better.
All right.
Awesome.
So the bottom line is, you see, we've got some very incredible graphics. And that's really what Windows 98 is all about. It's giving you the best gaming experience going forward.
Very cool.
Okay, I'd like to move on to a new section of functionality for Windows 98. This is all about integrating television capabilities onto your PC. With Windows 98, you can actually watch TV on a PC. Now, you do need to add a TV tuner card to your PC. And I've actually got a TV tuner card in my PC. It's kind of like adding a video card. You just pop it in a PCI slot, and then once you've got it in, you take your cable feed or even your rabbit ears, and you just plug it into your PC, into that TV tuner
The
card.
PC would look pretty funny with rabbit ears.
Yeah, I
coming
had it in my office. It looks quite odd, but it works quite well. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, this feature is called WebTV for Windows. And I've got a live cable feed here, and what you're going to see is I've got all my program listings. And here's my local, I think this is channel 5 here. Let me go to my program listings.
Not bad.
I'm going to go to the guide.
And you follow through.
Okay, so I can go to Siskel and Ebert. I can go to, looks like the cooking show. So the nice thing is that as I flip to different channels, I get that preview in the top right corner. Cool. The other thing is, you notice I get a description what that program is here with a little abstract. And now that I've got all these program listings downloaded on my PC, it's much easier to find out what's on TV. Compare that to today. You know, a lot of people, they do channel surfing, you know, or they just like flip through the TV guide, or they watch that preview channel. It takes like an hour to go through the local listings.
It's just a real pain.
Yeah. So now I just type in an address. So let's say I want to go to Seinfeld, figure out when the next episode of Seinfeld is. And it tells me it's coming up Saturday, 7:30 p.m., gives me a description of what it is so I can figure out whether it's a rerun,
Cool.
whether or not I want to watch it. And this is the best part. I hit this reminder button, and then it brings up a reminder. Instead of like, you know, hey, don't watch TV, go work. It's like, stop working, go and watch TV. Favorite feature here.
And this looks like an episode you wouldn't want to miss.
Jerry's Flame sees George naked during beach weekend. More power to you. Okay, now the great part here is I could actually put this in a window so it doesn't take up my entire TV screen, and I could start working on something else, for example. So let's take a look at this. Got the American Cyberdog story, Steel Warrior.
Cyberdog? This looks like more like Cyborg to me.
I can't read.
Steel Warrior.
Okay, so let's put this in a window.
Sunday at 2 on UPN 11.
This is a public notice from
So now I can be catching the latest, you know, sports game or whatever while I'm doing my worldwide widget summary.
You know, BJ, when we were talking about multiple monitors, it'd be really cool to have like TV in one window and like your real work in another monitor.
I think we can do that.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this. And drag Excel over onto that monitor there. Let's blow it up there.
Cool.
Now let's get my TV here back to full screen. Okay, so what you see here is that you can, for the ultimate multitasking user, your PC multitasks as you multitask. All right,
That's
great.
very cool. Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, so what we're seeing here is I can get TV on my PC. I can multitask while I'm doing Excel or even surfing the web. And it's also,
or waste time.
you be the judge. It's also a lot easier to find out what's on TV. Now, going forward, I want to talk about some of the cool things you can do by having this capability on a PC. You can actually get a very interactive TV experience. What we can do is actually combine web content with TV content so you get an interactive TV experience. So I'm going to give you a conceptual demo of what this is all about, and then as we walk it through, I'll explain a little bit about what you see.
following is a demonstration of what
Okay.
MSNBC can deliver in the future when television and the internet are combined on a single screen. This example uses real stories from recent headlines along with interactive and personalized features that make the news more relevant to the viewer.
Residents and tourists on Mexico's Pacific
Okay, so
coast
first this
cleaning
looks
up
like
after
traditional
a
TV.
devastating
Here's good old
visit
Brian
from
Williams.
Hurricane Pauline.
But I've got
The
this little
storm created
I
flash
button, this
floods
interactive
that
button.
tore up streets
I'm going to
and
click
water
that,
pipes,
and
leaving
now it
clean
takes me to this
water,
new
short
view
supply, and the threat of
where
cholera
it
now very
looks like I'm
real.
watching TV, but in a web page. And effectively, that's what I am doing. And what we're doing is we're broadcasting not only TV content, but also this web content at the same time through the TV signal. So what happens is that I can get my personal weather forecast, or I can find out about Hurricane Pauline and get more detail about the lead story that they're talking about.
Really interesting.
So let's go to Hurricane Pauline. What happens is that this is a web page that's been broadcast to me through the TV signal.
So you're not going out to the web here. This information is coming straight to you through the TV signal.
Exactly. That's a really important distinction. I'm not using a phone line. I'm not using the internet to get this. It's broadcast through the TV signal on that particular channel.
Thousands are now homeless, but many who survived are thankful.
And for those of you who are a bit more familiar with the TV signal, you may be wondering, how do we do this? We actually send it through the VBI, which is the vertical blanking interval of a TV signal. And every TV station has this. For example, that's what they use to send closed captioning information. So we're just expanding on this capability, and because a PC is a multi-purpose device, it can readily adapt and process this new type of information, whereas your traditional TV wouldn't be able to do this.
Filling buckets and a desperate need. Some have accused Mexico's government of moving slowly in assisting its victims, but most here want
As an
to focus
example
on
here,
healing and helping each
I could
other.
even check out
Download
personal
the
quote
NBC
lookup.
News.
So there are lots of
And
things
that
that
is
you
our
can do with this
broadcast Monday
capability.
night. We hope to see you right back here
So
at the
this
same
is
time
really
tomorrow
odd. This is
night. I'm
perfect for
Brian Williams.
people,
We'll
you know,
see
those
you
TV
tonight,
watchers who
everybody.
have extremely low attention spans.
Exactly. And then it gets even better because we can do interactive style commercials. So let's take a look here. Okay, this guy's getting a little too into it. But now here's my little interactive button again. All right, I'm gonna hit on that. And now I go to my interactive mode. And you know, this is an ad for a Toshiba DVD player. And I think this is pretty cool. So I'm gonna get some product information. So I'm still watching the commercial over here, but now it's telling me about various DVD players that they offer. So for example, this, wow, this looks pretty cool. The SD3006 video player with 5.1 channel Dolby Digital Surround sound. Let's check it out. So it gives me the specs on it, and if I want, I could actually find out which stores around here carry it. And potentially, I could even think about buying it. Now, just to be clear, if I wanted to actually go ahead and buy it and send information back, then I would need what we call a back channel, or just a phone line back to the internet to communicate backwards, because all this so far is just coming one way to me. So what you've seen here is just a basic overview of some of the conceptual possibilities that are available going forward. And we're working with Hollywood producers, with networks, to start broadcasting this content. We anticipate that by the time we launch, we'll have a number of stations sending this content. I know in Seattle, we will have Cairo coming online in the next few weeks or so.
Wow, amazing. Now, do we have other ways to have information basically broadcast down to your PC without having to connect to the internet?
Yeah, we do. We're going to ship an application within Windows 98 called WaveTop.
Yep.
And what it does is it, again, leverages this VBI idea where we're sending data through the TV signal. And in fact, we don't even worry about regular TV video in this case. What we do is we use it as an alternative means of getting web content. Because you think about your average home user who doesn't necessarily have the luxury of a 24/7 access to a T1 in their home.
Or, you know, in plain English, a fast internet connection.
Exactly, exactly. So, you know, for them, they've got to go use their phone line. It's slow.
Yep.
Also, while they're getting data on the phone, they can't be downloading, they can't be talking on the phone. So what if I said, hey, you could get your favorite web content, but without ever using your phone line? That's what this application allows you to do. And this application will ship bundled with Windows 98. And they actually ship sites like the Wall Street Journal Interactive Edition or USA Today News. And what you see here is that they've divided up into various content groups. So for example, the news top sends me the basic news capability. The stock top is where I can find things like the Wall Street Journal and financial news such as Fortune.
Now, BJ, what does it cost to get this information?
It's actually free. What happens is that they send this data through the VBI on PBS, And we know that 99% of all households in the U.S. have access to PBS, either through cable
Or through rabbit ears.
Through rabbit ears. So that means if you've got access to PBS, all you need to do is just plug in your cable feed or your rabbit ears into your PC. And again, you do need a TV tuner card for this, but with that TV tuner card, you can get this content. So basically, it's just an alternative to using the internet, and it's nice because it's effortless. Rather than having to dial up and worrying about lost connections, things like that, you can get this automatically.
Now, BJ, with all this information going down to your PC through your cable connection, should I be a little bit worried about having my hard disk filled up with all this information?
That's a great question. Actually, you don't have to worry about this. WaveTop will allocate a fixed amount of hard disk space for each content section of news. So for example, here, to get USA Today and Sportsline, it looks like it's going to take about 123 megabytes. Now what happens is that USA Today is probably broadcasting new information on a regular basis, perhaps more than once a day. So as they send out new content, what they do is rewrite over the old content. So it's never going to take more than 123 megabytes for all this content that I get.
Very
so
cool.
It just rewrites over the old stuff.
So everything is always fresh.
Exactly. And what you see here is that I can, to some extent, customize the information I get, even though it's through a broadcast means. I can use this application as a filter to say, hey, I want USA Today, I want to get Sportsline, but I don't care about these other things. And so even though it's broadcast, which is inherently one way, I do get interactivity through this application.
Very cool.
So with WaveTop, again, to sum up, we're just providing an alternative means to alternative way to get web content without ever using your phone line.
Okay. BJ, another area in which Windows 98 is providing a great leap forward for providing a great entertainment experience on your PC is its support for DVD. And DVD is important for a couple of reasons. One, from a capacity perspective, DVD is like a great leap forward in terms of providing a high capacity storage medium.
So DVD is like replaces CD-ROM.
Yeah, it looks just like a standard 5-inch CD-ROM, but it holds up to 26 times more than a CD-ROM. And to put this into perspective, if I wanted to have Jurassic Park on CD-ROM, it would take like 7 CDs. But I could put all of that movie with surround sound and full motion theater quality video, as well as soundtrack, etc., on a single DVD. It's very cool.
Okay, so let's take a look at what's possible. I'm going to show you Warren Miller's Ski World. It's a recent DVD published by Multicom. And what you're going to see is you've got full screen video, very high quality. We've also got support for Dolby surround sound, which I'm not sure if you can experience on your VCR there, but we hope so.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that you can do. For example, you could have multiple language tracks if you were watching a movie, right? So you could automatically switch from French, say, to English, or you could have subtitles. And again, this is just because you can fit up to 26 times more information on a DVD.
So this video clip this DVD clip is really speaking for itself. For most Win95 users, watching video on a PC means watching an AVI or a software MPEG, where maybe it sounds okay and looks okay in a small window, but as soon as you go to full screen mode, the quality really falls apart. And here in full screen mode, it's like theater quality.
Exactly. Now, one thing I do want to point out is that DVD is not just about watching movies on your PC. It's really about the generational gains that you get in multimedia and interactivity. When you think back to when we first introduced the CD-ROM onto the PC, it wasn't just about listening to your favorite Pearl Jam CD on your PC. Sure, you could do that, but it was really about the transition from a floppy disk where you could store very little information to a CD-ROM where you could fit suddenly tons more information, and ultimately you got great improvements in software titles, great interactivity gains, multimedia gains. And so we see DVD as the same kind of generational leap going forward from your existing CD-ROM title. And so right now we're in the very early stages, which is why movies for now are the primary application. Encarta 98, for example, though, I believe just shipped on DVD, one of the first titles to ship on a DVD. So we'll wrap up here in a quick moment here, but I think one of my favorite parts is coming up, so I just want to, I gotta wait for this. This
is all about really, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Here we go. Check this guy out. Oh my God. Oh, that's great. And then there's this guy, which you wonder why he has only one leg, right?
This is extreme. Okay.
And And then there's one last part where it's just totally worth it because I've never seen anyone catch this much air. Look at that. Okay, great.
We've demonstrated that Windows 98 plays better by providing better entertainment, better multimedia, and we've started to show how it allows you to do more with your PC. And we started off with TV. That definitely shows that you're doing more with your PC. But the next thing we'd like to show is Windows 98 supports some new standards like the Universal Serial Bus or USB that makes it much easier to add and remove accessories from your PC, such as this incredibly cool USB video camera.
Great. So let's talk a little bit more about USB. USB just makes it so easy to add devices to your PC that we think people are actually going to start doing it. In the past, people said, hey, I use my keyboard, my mouse, printer, but I don't want to deal with anything else because it's complicated. But USB makes it so simple. So for example, this video conferencing camera you could use for video conferencing on the internet. But some of the other benefits of USB are, number one, it provides a standard connector for any single USB device.
Let's take a look at it.
Okay, I'll hold that up there.
Okay, can you see that?
Okay. So any single USB device will have this type of connector. And the nice thing about that is it's one size fits all. So just like you plug in something into your electrical outlet at your wall, you never think about, well, what kind of connectors. It's just, it fits, right? Whereas in the past, users have said, well, the keyboard goes here, the mouse, it's just too confusing.
And they've even had to start color coding the connectors to make it simpler, but still really not all that easy.
Exactly. Okay. There's another benefit of USB, though. For example, you notice here this video camera doesn't have a separate cord for power. It gets its power through the same cable where it gets the data signal. Again, just making it easier to use peripheral. You don't have to worry about just lots of cables lying around. Of course, the other thing is that it transmits data about 30 times faster than a traditional serial port. Most serial ports operate at about 400 kilobits a second, whereas this is 12 megabits a second. USB also makes it much easier for the operating system to interact with the hardware, and in the end, makes the operating system much smarter. So for example, I've got a USB speaker here, and you'll see here, let's bring up something with some sound. As I hit the sound volume controls on the hardware, the software is going to figure out what's going on. And you compare this to the past where maybe you had the volume cranked on your speakers, but it was minimized in the software, and then you go to raise the volume, and next thing you know, you're blown away by sound. Here we're much smarter. So you notice, as I hit the volume control, watch the volume control on the software.
Oh, that's extremely cool.
So I'll do that one more time, just for good measure.
That really makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Yep.
So again, we're just a lot smarter in how we handle things with the software. Now the last benefit of USB, though, that I really think we need to wrap up with and really emphasize is that it makes it so easy to plug devices into your PC because it's hot pluggable. No longer do you need to worry about turning off your PC to add a new device. You just simply, while your PC's on and running, you add a new device, and then you're ready to go in literally a minute or two. And just to show you exactly the difference between adding a device on Win95 and Win98, we're going to do that for you right here.
Perfect.
So we're both got some scanners we're going to add here. I have a Logitech page scanner, as does Dave. Mine's a USB scanner.
And mine's a traditional parallel scanner.
Okay, so Dave's going to show you what it's like to install that on Win95, and why don't you go first, because you're going to need the head start.
You're going to give me a head start?
You bet.
Well, let's see what we've got here. Well, this looks like the scanner. All kinds of weird connectors in here. Let's see here. It's complicated. That's a connector I've never seen before. What do you think that might be? You want to hold it?
Sure.
Like that. And what's this?
I don't know. I wonder if you have to crack open the case, like add a special card inside of your PC.
Oh man, if that's the case, that's just going to be too difficult. Oh, and look what we got here. Here's the power supply.
All right.
Okay, I wonder if there's an outlet close by where I can actually plug this thing in.
You know what? I'm going to put you out of your misery.
Looks too difficult.
Do you mind cleaning up here so I can I can do the USB side now for Win98?
You do that.
All right. So here's my equivalent scanner, but USB. And one of the nice benefits of USB is, of course, that there's no shrink wrap required on the packaging. You just take out the product, and then you're ready to go. So now I'm going to plug it in. And watch what happens on my screen here. I'm going to plug it in. You're going to see that Windows 98 is automatically going to detect it on the fly that I plugged something in. Okay, it says unknown device. Windows has found new hardware and is locating the software. Figures out that it's a Storm Technology Logitech page scan. It's installing the software, and now I'm ready to go. And you recall the example with the USB speakers. When I hit the volume control, there was some interactivity between the hardware and the software. I've got that again with this scanner. I'm going to hit the button here, and that's going to tell Windows that, hey, I want to use the scanner, so launch the imaging application. So here we go.
There it goes.
Launches the imaging application. And now we're going to scan in a picture here. Let's scan in, I think this is your son. Looks kind of like Edward.
Looks familiar.
So let's scan Edward in. And here we go. So you notice here, in about 60 seconds, we've gone from never having used this device on this PC to installing it and
A fully working scanner.
exactly. And you compare that
Fantastic.
to a Windows 95, where a lot of times scanners, especially, can take hours.
Yeah.
So that's really one of the biggest benefit of USB is that it's just so easy to add devices on the fly. Now, some of you may be thinking, hey, I've never heard of USB. How do I know if my PC has USB support? Turns out that most PCs shipping today, about 80% of all PCs shipping today have USB ports on them. And we actually estimate, based on IDC's estimates, that there are about 30 million USB-enabled PCs out there. So if you have one of those special little ports on your PC, you can start to add USB devices to your PC with Windows 98.
Right. Fantastic.
Okay, so why don't we wrap up here? And what we've seen here is that Windows 98, it works better and it plays better. It works better because it's easier, it's faster, and it's smarter. We've got great troubleshooting utilities. We've made applications launch faster. With FAT32, you can store information more efficiently. We've also automated the process of keeping your PC in its optimal state.
The maintenance wizard and the system file checker, etc. Yeah.
And then, Dave, I'm sure you can talk about how it plays better.
Totally. Well, we've shown you with DirectX games with much better quality of video and graphics, and the speed of graphics, really cool. Support for DVD makes your PC a much better entertainment platform, and with USB capabilities, you can do a lot more with your PC, and then finally, you can watch TV on your PC and take advantage of interactive programming.
Great. Well, thanks very much, and enjoy Windows 98.